You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. You also can catch us on wherever you listen to your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. If you're a first-time listener and you want to know how this show works and how this channel works, we bring you episodes Monday through Friday, and we also have the Royals Postcast, which is hosted by Chance Lebo. He comes to you live after each and every Royals game, gives that instant reaction, about 15 minutes long. And as for us, we also will add in some 60-second YouTube shorts, though I know I haven't been the best about that lately. I've been very busy over the last couple of weekends. So here's what I think Royals fans, new listeners, and old listeners can plan on moving forward. Because we have the Royals postcast and we will have that instant reaction, my goal is that every single episode you can expect to come out between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. every single day. That's Monday through Friday. You can look for it in that wheelhouse. I can pretty much always guarantee it's going to be out before 12:30. In fact, I can 100% promise that if there was any time it wasn't before noon, it would be out before 12:30. So moving forward, and again, things can always change. My goal is to get these episodes out in a timely manner. And because we have the postcast and we already have that reaction, I thought, in my opinion, because of my work schedule, I don't really want to get these out at 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. You can always look for our episodes between 9 a.m. Central Time and 12 p.m. Central Time. And we'll be having breakdowns over last night's game, previewing the game before. We'll actually be having our Royals prospect on, so we'll have 2 episodes today, though that interview might just be about 15 minutes long. I doubt it will be a full 30. But as for this episode, it will be as usual. Other than StreamYard is still not working, we're having to bring you this through Zoom. We had to do the same thing on a Mailbag Friday, so fingers crossed whenever they get it done, we will be able to go back to normal, have the usual look for our YouTube format. But at least for the audio portion, if you listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that stuff, it shouldn't be that big of a change because I'm still using this same microphone. Let's dive into it. It was absolutely inexcusable what happened over the weekend in Kansas City. And now that I'm saying this, I just realized that my Zoom username at the bottom is actually spelled incorrectly. I believe I had the same thing happen on Friday. Can't change it now. That's the least of my concerns. Because what is of my concern is how the Royals performed, not just in the Yankee series. We covered that all last week. It was how they performed throughout that A's series. And you have the team meeting, and you're trying to find a way to jumpstart the offense. And I put this out there on Twitter last Friday that this A's pitching staff came in ranked at the bottom or close to it in nearly every single category. Highest ERA, higher than Colorado's, highest walk rate in baseball, one of the worst whips in the league. Opponents were hitting over 270 against the A's pitching staff. And you were not getting anybody that was lights out of the 3 other than Luis Severino, who apparently is only good on the road. And I was listening to the Royals broadcast during that game that I want to say it was Denny Matthews or Jake Eisenberg brought up that his home road splits were due to the fact that in Sacramento, like the clubhouse is behind center field. So it's a little bit weird when he's going through his routine or when he goes to big league ballparks, he's able to pitch like he did last year for the New York Mets. But in game 1, you get an absolute clunker. I mean, it was one of the worst performances that you could recall this season. And there's not been many times that I would say that over one loss. You know, if you listen to this podcast long enough, you would know that when we react to a loss, we are never going to put everything into that one night because they play the next day. And oftentimes, the next day wipes out what happens the night before. And that goes the same if you win the night before. You lose the next day, that becomes the focus. But Friday was one that really stuck with me. That was just an all-around pathetic and awful performance. No approach at the plate. I was not furious, but very puzzled at the way they were going about certain situations at the plate. We know they are an aggressive team. We know that they love to put the ball in play. But the amount of first pitch swings when they had just gotten a runner on, when there was two outs, was baffling. And at no point in that first game did you really see the adjustment. And even though there was the ninth inning and they rallied for 3 runs and they had the tying run in the on deck circle, or it might have been, yeah, I think it was in the on deck circle and Bobby Witt Jr. Look, that's not good enough for me. And I imagine that's not good enough for a lot of people. You can't rally in the ninth inning when you're down by 5, make it close, and then go, well, that game was close. No, it wasn't. It was 6-1 for the majority of that game. Micah Wacha was not effective. He was not sharp with his command. Steven Cruz came in and didn't do his job. Okay, and then you go to the next day. After all of that, you think, all right, if that was going to be the game that the Athletics won because of how poor they had been on the road, they had just won a road series in Baltimore, but they had 6 total wins going back to May 6th. So you're talking about over a month, this team has less than 1 week's worth of wins. And they come in game 1, Friday night, big crowd, Gordo's retirement ceremony, and you lay an egg. Okay, if you're going to lay an egg on Friday, there has to be some fiery, passionate baseball on Saturday. Like, you got to come out and light up a guy with an 0-4 record and 6.00 ERA. And quite the opposite happened. They got shut out in that game. And Jacob Lopez, who had thrown over 4 innings, I believe, just twice this season, he goes 6 innings and ties a career high with 9 strikeouts. And every approach was the exact opposite of what we saw the night before. We saw an approach that was basically taking every first pitch strike. So if you want to be less aggressive, let's see if this guy can get in the zone. I still expect there to be an adjustment because maybe the Athletics were 1 step ahead. Mark Kotsay was 1 step ahead when it came to game planning for Jacob Lopez and the A's pitching coach. They were 1 step ahead because he just kept firing fastballs right down the middle or sliders and cutters right down the middle. And the Royals weren't swinging. And you could tell Ryan Lefebvre was a bit agitated because he was talking about how there were so many first pitch strikes and they are letting a lot of pitches just go right down the middle. And then later on in the at-bat, not swinging at a great pitch. And to me, that's where the adjustment happens. He is going to continue to throw those first pitch strikes, which he did in all 6 innings, and yet the Royals did not make the adjustment to switch and start swinging at those. And even if those did turn into outs, those at times were the best pitches you were getting to hit. And he had the funky angle, and it was a little bit tough on lefties, and righties were seeing him come from the other batter's box. Still, the kid had an 0-4 record with a 6.00 ERA. We can't use that excuse. That, it was a tough angle. No, he had not been good all season long. And you got shut out. And Michael Lorenzen gave you a quality start, and yet you couldn't put together even 2 runs early on when you were trailing 2-0. I mean, so that was maybe the worst loss of the season. And you also have to tip your cap to what the Athletics were doing. I've always hated that when you lose to a team that is inferior to you record-wise, you say, it was just awful. All series long was awful. No, the A's did have a good series. They pitched well, and their offense was top 10 in the league coming in, and they executed well. So I give my credit to that. The Royals also played poorly, and their pitching staff wasn't as sharp. Their offense continued to have the same issues, which brings me to Sunday. And on Sunday, they have the players-only meeting on Saturday after the game. And you want to pinpoint that. You want to mark that and say, this could be the thing that turns us around. Like, they really all had a gut check moment. We got to avoid the sweep tomorrow. Let's come out with our hair on fire, and let's play with some intensity. And they go out there with Noah Cameron on the bump, who, by the way, was great again. 5 shutout innings. He was pulled with, 82, 83 pitches, I want to say it was. And we'll get into that in the second segment about whether I believe it was the right move or not. But the offense, they cash in. They get 2 runs early on in the game. And that's it. The rest of the game, they can't score again off Jeffrey Springs. The A's had the worst bullpen in baseball going into this. They couldn't scratch across a single thing. They didn't get anything on Saturday. They went 9 up, 9 down in the final 3 innings. And then yesterday, you barely had any threat. And you get a leadoff runner in the ninth off Mason Miller. You strike out, you pop out, you strike out. I mean, nothing is going well right now. Absolutely nothing. And you have the off day today, get right, but then go on the road and play a team that you never play well in their home stadium in Arlington against the Rangers, a team now that is ahead of you in the wild card race. They're 1 game back, you're 3 games back of a playoff spot, which is baffling to me still, considering how poorly they played this week. I mean, you had the White Sox and the A's sandwiched with the Yankees in the middle, and you went 1-8 in that stretch. After winning the series in St. Louis, 1-8 against 2 teams that have yet to win 30 games, and the Yankees. And 6 of those 3 were at home. Absolutely inexcusable, and we'll see what they look like on the road. But that was quite a poor series, is putting it too lightly. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of people sounding off in the comments about their thoughts on the most recent homestand. Let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, so who's to blame? If the Royals are struggling this badly and they go 0-6 on the homestand, who are we pointing the finger to? Is it a group of people? Is it the coaching staff? I'll give you my thoughts next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. And before we go any further with today's show, I want to tell you about one of our newer sponsors today on the podcast, and that's OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Nope, you just called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. So here's what you need to do. OpenPhone is offering Locked On Royals listeners 20% off on your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's OpenPhone.com/lockedon. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over with no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Who is to blame for the Royals' 34-38 start to the season? And I would say that, going back over the last few weeks, looking at the comment page, looking at what's been said on Twitter, there's a lot of people that blame Matt Quatraro. Okay, Matt Quatraro is the problem with this team. He's not intense enough. It doesn't look like he cares. And I'm not going to take all the blame off of Matt Quatraro, because a manager is the leader, the captain of the ship. He's the leader of this group. And if you're not playing well, naturally, and the way it goes with all sports, blame will fall at your feet. You will be somebody that takes criticism. So he's not blameless in this. But Matt Quatraro also had the same look, same intensity last season, and that team got to the ALDS. So that has not changed. That's why I push back and say, well, there's nothing different than last year in his demeanor and his intensity. So that, to me, is not really what needs to be blamed. There are a lot of people, too, and I would say a little bit more loud now than they were even 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, that Alex Zumwalt is the one to blame. He is the hitting coach alongside Keone Duren. And even in last Mailbag Friday, I got a lot of questions about when are they going to fire Alex Zumwalt? When are they going to cut ties and try something else? Because clearly what's going on right now is not working. And I understand that. And even though that I have pushed back and said, no, you don't really make a hitting coach change unless you feel like you've got the perfect solution. If somebody else is out there, if you feel you can promote somebody within, and they would be a better solution and a better answer than Alex Zumwalt. My take, though, with hitting coaches is that you can fire 3 or 4 of them in the season. But hitting coaches are not going to make the same change an offensive coordinator makes in football. Like if you fire an OC and bring in another OC and they've got a completely different way of how they run their offense, that's different. They are calling plays. They are dealing with running plays and passing plays and play action and RPO and all that type of stuff. In baseball, a hitting coach can give you tools, but the hitter has to go to the plate and execute. And I get you could say that, well, they're doing the same thing in football when you give them a play, but that is a play designed for success, right? You're not going up there and telling a hitter, all right, you need to double into the gap here. Like, yeah, everybody would love to do that. And there are times you have to have a game plan and approach the plate. Let's get the runner over. Let's lay down a bunt. Let's take a few pitches here. There are little things that you can do to help that. But to me, what I constantly go back to with this group is you can put blame on the coaching staff, how they run the team. The reality, in my opinion, is that the players have to play better. They just do. And I would probably go a step further and say the best players on this team have to play better. Okay, you can't win many games when Bobby Witt Jr. is, 1 for 22. I mean, it was brutal on the homestand. Absolutely brutal. You had Michael Garcia prior to Saturday, have a cold homestand. Vinny Pasquantino's been their hottest hitter, and he's stayed hot of late, and Bobby had a 2-hit game. But over this stretch of games, I constantly go back to what's the difference between this year and last year. Bobby Witt Jr. was an MVP last year. He led the league in hitting. He was hitting .330. And he was putting together one of the most unbelievable seasons in Royals history. Yes, it is hard to follow that up. But he's not even in consideration, it feels like, to be top 2, top 3 in MVP voting. And he could still get there, absolutely. He's one of the most talented players in the game. But when you look at the struggles of this team, yes, health is a concern. Not having Cole Reagans be what he was last year, that stings. Right? You have a bullpen that is much better than last year, but you're not able to get Lucas Erceg and Estevez out there every single day because this offense isn't putting together enough runs, putting together enough good at-bats and production to give you the lead late in games. There are so many times the starting rotation's having to pitch down 2-0 in a 1-0 game, in an 0-0 game, and that can't fly over the rest of the season. I get that it's not over. Some people are done with this team. And again, I'm never going to fault you from giving up, and I'm not going to call you out if they do come back and make things interesting. But the fact the American League is so jumbled together, the Royals went 0-6 in a homestand, 1-8 in a 9-game stretch, and they dropped half a game for a playoff spot. Like, that's the state of the American League right now, but it's not an excuse. You missed a perfect opportunity to cash in on beating a bad team and being a half game out of a playoff spot, right? So to me, yes, coaching staff deserves blame and maybe how they've handled some of these guys, and somebody might need to fall on the sword. I'm not there yet, but if you get to the All-Star break and they're still dead last in runs per game and offensive production and runners in scoring position, well, it's either a player that has to fall on the sword, and I don't know who that would be at this point. They've had a lot of players fall on the sword, or it's a coach, or it's a hitting coach, right? So something does have to change. To me, as much of a protector of the players I am, this is about making sure that the players have to get their job done too. Like, the hitting coach can be the blame. The Royals hitters went up there against 2 of the 3 pitchers that are not the best in the league. And Luis Severino's not the best in the league. They had a great opportunity against starters and bullpen arms to cash in. And they scored a total of 6 runs in 3 games against the worst pitching staff in baseball. That's about player execution, in my opinion. And not having your best players play to the level they should be at, that's going to put more pressure on the bottom of the order, which is now starting to show that regression we were anticipating coming. Okay, we'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, there was a blockbuster trade in baseball yesterday. What does it mean for the rest of the American League? I'll give you my thoughts next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. The last sponsor we want to tell you about is Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. That's Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast, from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. The blockbuster trade that happened yesterday really took everybody by surprise. And Rafael Devers going from the Boston Red Sox to the San Francisco Giants. And not only was it a blockbuster for the Giants, it was a loud and clear message to the rest of the American League that a team that's red hot, a team that's contending, feels like maybe this team is just not good enough to make it to where we need to be. And this is coming off of a sweep of the New York Yankees. Like the Red Sox, who will be getting Alex Bregman back at some point. And that's what's baffling to me. I know there was the feud with Devers and where he wanted to play and the frustration with ownership and the front office. The Red Sox went out there and signed Alex Bregman to a massive deal, at least money-wise. Traded a lot of prospects for Garrett Crochet. And then traded their best hitter to get Jordan Hicks, who kind of feels like a salary dump for the Giants and was moved from the rotation to the bullpen. You got Kyle Harrison, who the Royals saw in San Francisco, a lively left-handed arm, but a ERA over 4, at least I believe in his career. And he just got optioned to AAA. So he's not even with Boston. Then you throw in a couple other prospects, one of the first-round picks last year for the Giants, and another kid who's in high A. So they get 4 total players, but for Rafael Devers, didn't feel like a lot. And if you're an American League team, you're going, now when I face the Boston Red Sox, I view them differently. There's the young pups like Roman Anthony, and you've got Marcelo Mayer as well. You've got young, talented pieces in Boston. Rafael Devers, as we saw against the Royals, who always just crushed him, are now not going to have to worry about him on Boston anymore. And yeah, that contract's going to look bad down the road, but the Giants are trying to compete with the Dodgers, and I love that move for them. That's an aggressive move. They're playing well. They did manage to win a game in LA. I can't remember if they won the series, but they're trying to keep pace. And that's a tough National League. But now you look at Boston differently in that wild card race. And the Royals, by the way, need to worry about themselves first. But this also could be the signal of if you are going to make a move, whether you're buying or selling, you can start now. I've said this many times that you're not going to be able to trade with teams in June, right? You're going to have to wait till July because teams will just wait till you're desperate enough. Now we're starting to see that teams are making moves. They will go out there and sell if they want to. They will go out there and buy if they want to. Maybe the Royals are in that camp. But it felt that after this series that something is going to need to happen. And you're going to need more help for this lineup. And you're going to have to get this offense playing well. And, I've said that so many times. And as my good buddy Joel Penfield of the KC Sports Network said on Friday, like at times I'm just out of words. I'm not going to repeat myself over and over again. Oh, they need to get the offense going. They need to do this and that. They just got to go out there and do it. There's only so much I can say. And I did think it was funny that there was a comment on one of my tweets this past weekend of, when is somebody from the media or one of the talking heads going to call the front office out or call ownership out or call the team out and spark something, hold them accountable, I believe the way it was said. And I get the frustration from fans. I'm not affiliated with the Royals. I do go and cover a handful of games from time to time, but we're here to talk about them. Maybe you think I could change things, but that's not the way baseball works, and we all know it's the way sports don't work. It doesn't work. We don't have ownership and front office members and players constantly listening to this podcast and doing what I say. Maybe in a different world, a different life, that would be possible. I'm here to give you my thoughts and my reactions to it. And for those covering the team, I believe they're doing a great job and still asking great questions for this team. But it goes back to, what we talked about in the second segment. This comes down to the players. That's why there was a players-only meeting. The manager and the coaching staff, they're going to put you out there. Like, they're going to constantly put that lineup out there. And yeah, you need some changes from time to time. But the players have to play better. The players have to get to a point to where they were last year. And now you're starting to see the rotation, even though Cameron threw 5 shutout, Lorenzen threw a quality start. Like Michael Walker wasn't good on Friday. And it seems like you're running into that every series now where early on in the season, you could win those 1-0 games, those 2-0 games. And now you're in a rut. I would say that it's not early in the season. We're halfway through now. But you got to change things around, and there's still time to. They're not 10 games back. And I know that's not what fans want to hear. Oh, they're only X amount of games back. They got to work on themselves first before they can look at how Rafael Devers and Boston and that trade impacts them. They start winning a lot more games, and you get to the deadline, and you get to August, and you're looking at the Red Sox, and then we can reevaluate that. First things first, they got to go out on this road trip and take on these next couple of games a hell of a lot differently than they did against the Yankees and the A's. They got the Rangers, they got the Rays, they got the Dodgers, they got the Padres all jammed up here in the next couple of weeks. And if they're not careful, they could absolutely get buried. Okay, that'll do it for our first episode of the week here on Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow, we'll be back at the same time again. We'll get this episode out before 12:30 or noon, best case scenario. But until then, and I should also say that I hope StreamYard is back up. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.